What's good? What's good? This your boy DJ Creed back with another video, man. Your boy Terrence Howard. Is he a genius? Hmm. I previously made a video and wanted to do a follow-up video, kind of clearing up my thoughts on Terrence Howard, and also Eric Weinstein goes on Piers Morgan and breaks down exactly what he was doing on the Joe Rogan's experience, his podcast. Some good things, some negative things, but overall, I'm glad that he was on here. He's gonna break down his experience. And by the way, I think Terrence Howard is super smart. I think he's a genius, but the things that he does know and the things he doesn't know conflict with each other. But we're gonna take this interview because it's a real good interview. Eric Weinstein breaks it down, and I'll come in whenever I can. Here we go.
In the last few days. For those who didn't watch the Terrence Howard 4-hour, I don't know what you would call it, theory-a-thon, let's be kind. What were the sort of main premises he was coming out with that have captured everyone's attention?
Well, I think that he made several outrageous claims that were more or less baseless as far as either the heterodox or the orthodox view of science, that 1 times 1 is equal to 2, that the periodic table should be rearranged around earlier work from the 1920s, that he had a theory of physics based on Platonic solids with curved linear sides. I don't think any of those hold up to any kind of scrutiny. That said, he definitely has some very interesting engineering claims, and he's got some very interesting geometric structures that could make beautiful lighting, fantastic art, and he is saying some things that people are deriding from a scholarly perspective that actually have some merit. So it's a very bizarre and complicated situation, but it is not complicated at the root. There's nothing wrong with standard orthodox science, and I say that as a very strong critic of the system. So if you wanted to hear it from somebody with a PhD who's nevertheless not shy about savaging the institutions when that is what they deserve, I would say that the level of doubt that he has cast on simple things like arithmetic is completely unwarranted. But it's a very bizarre situation to watch an entire nation that depends on technology and science for its advantage suddenly question whether or not 1 times 1 equals 1.
What is fascinating?
And I hate to budge in, but they're like, okay, I think that's where Terrence Howard messed up at, is because, trying to override proven mathematics is probably one of the hardest things to do. And I think that's why he got a lot of backlash. And that's why people will call him crazy and all that stuff. Because the math is proven. Anything we do in technology is because of the math and pretty much the science. And I think that was the overall thing Eric Weinstein was saying. Everybody's smarter than me, but I think I just get the basic overview of what he was saying. And it's not that Terrence is dumb at all, And the last video I was laughing because it was funny. Anything that is funny, I'm laughing at. I don't care. This is reaction video heaven over here, But I do respect Terrence Howard for, doing what he had to do and come over there. But we're going to continue.
Something to me is the last time I had anything to do with Terrence Howard, I interviewed him at CNN about 10 years ago when he did a movie about the Tuskegee Airmen. And the next thing, he's doing a 4-hour podcast with Joe Rogan in which he's airing the most sort of intensely complex theories, many of which, as you say, might be completely for the birds. Were you aware that Terrence Howard was thinking this way, was moving to a place where he could even conduct an interview like that?
Well, to be honest, I didn't know who Terrence Howard was, so I didn't have an image for him. But had you asked me, I would have thought back to Werner Herzog doing the entire film Fitzcarraldo to test his engineering theories about how less technologically advanced people could move heavy objects many miles uphill. He created an entire film to test his engineering theories. Hedy Lamarr famously developed spread spectrum technology despite being a screen siren back in the 30s and 40s. So just as I don't think it's very strange to find out that Steve Martin is an incredible banjo player, I don't find it at all odd that a polymath like Terrence Howard would have such theories. I don't think that the theories about math and physics and chemistry are incredibly deep, so I'm going to push back on that. But I do think that he knows quite a lot about many things, and he doesn't know what he doesn't know.
I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson said that
Yeah, and again, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So if you don't know certain things, you stand on the island by yourself by not, having that research and having the knowledge of the other side. And that's why Terrence Howard is so confident, because he doesn't know that some of this stuff doesn't work, but he does have things that do work, and that builds up confidence even more too. All right, he gonna talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson. He goes off of Neil deGrasse. I don't know what the beef is. Maybe I need to look into it more.
People can know enough to sort of ask questions and stuff, but maybe not enough to know when they're wrong. In other words, when they're presented with, quite complex science that has been peer reviewed and is deemed to be established scientific fact, that he doesn't know enough about the detail to understand why he's wrong to question it.
You mean the Dunning-Kruger effect, as
Yeah.
Neil said?
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic, actually, because it feels to me like Neil deGrasse Tyson is himself a victim of the Dunning-Kruger effect when it
Sorry, y'all. Beef time.
comes to peer review, as his comments about Sir Arthur Eddington using the 1919 total solar eclipse to prove that Einstein's theory about a star warping space, in particular our sun, appeared to be borne out. Neil claims that was sent to a peer-reviewed journal, whereas peer review doesn't really begin in physics and in the sciences really until the 60s and much more the 70s. So it's very interesting because Neil himself doesn't appear conversant in the history of science and reviewing.
Isn't the reality of all science a bit like with medicine, that a lot of very smart people take a look at a lot of available data, but maybe not enough to reach absolute definitive conclusions, and they espouse theories which their peer group then look at and discuss and analyze and argue about, and that's how we progress with science over decades, centuries, and so on. I mean, isn't this part of the evolution of science? Is that people like you and Neil deGrasse Tyson might vehemently disagree about stuff, but actually it's only through the disagreements you develop.
Well, but I doubt that he would agree to a program where we were going to have a discussion about this. My guess is that you reached out to him and that he was too busy to appear. My claim is that in general we avoid dust-ups.
Boy, he's shooting. He do not like Neil deGrasse Tyson.
For fear of looking foolish. And I think it's fine to avoid dust-ups when you feel that there's an ethical problem with the other person. But in general, science progresses by a large variety of different channels. Benjamin Jesty famously observed that his milkmaids weren't dying from smallpox, but they did get cowpox. So he injected his entire family with cow pus to give them cowpox to prevent against smallpox. It's one of the beginnings of vaccines. People would dig up bodies from graveyards to do anatomical studies. Famously, the ulcer, which was thought to be correlated with stress, was tested by the dissenting heterodox biomedical researcher and shown to have a completely different etiology by using himself as a guinea pig. I think that you have to understand that just as Benjamin Franklin took a kite and key into an electrical storm to prove that lightning was electricity, people have done all sorts of things that have nothing to do with learned societies and the genteel sort of feel afforded by peer review in order to advance science. I really think that in part what we've done is we've sanitized our own history and we've forgotten what works.
What was interesting to me was Neil deGrasse Tyson didn't go on Joe Rogan to respond, which is what Terrence Howard wanted him to do, but you did, and here's a clip from that.
This is the other side of it.
Yeah.
This is what's very interesting. Like these, they'll come together and meet. You can see where they meet up.
Yeah.
Their natural meeting up.
Yeah.
Now this one looks exactly like this one, but they don't have the same mixture. So what this is creating, this is actually showing, this is the equal and opposite. This is matter. This becomes the antimatter of it.
I can't stop you doing that.
You can't stop me. I'm so sorry. I'm my own worst enemy and my own best friend.
You know what? That was a beautiful statement.
But what I'm trying to say is the fact that they keep, and these four will keep, this is just the magnetic, what I consider the magnetic field.
You see, you stopped yourself.
I consider this to be the magnetic field because they're expanding at the center, and magnetism, in my language, magnetism expands out and becomes greater.
And you know when you just said in my language?
In my language.
That's what I just did with the Terrence product. In other words,
said in your language.
I'm trying to get you to stop pissing my community off.
I don't want to piss them off. I want friends. I need friends.
Get online in minutes. Web.com's AI Builder makes it easy. Simply tell us some info about your brand, and in a minute,
Now, the interesting thing to me is, as we would say in the UK, it sounded to me like he was talking a load of old cobblers. And yet you were there and you were being very generous and sort of reasonable and decent with him, allowing him to continue with his theories. That's attracted for you a lot of criticism.
Now, hold on. I'm going to say something real quick. Terrence Howard was explaining things his way, the way he self-taught himself. So it makes a lot of sense. And that's why sometimes you could rub certain communities the wrong way when you haven't been taught in the way that you're supposed to be taught, traditionally. Using words wrong, context is different. So, you know, it is what it is, man. I do understand. Again, I don't think Terrence Howard is an idiot. You know, I just thought it was funny, you know, when Eric Weinstein was like just going off, just doing what he do. But again, you could be dumb on some ends of the spectrum. You could be smart on the other end of the spectrum. You just depend on what it is. You know, everybody ain't smart on everything. Here we go.
By engaging in that manner with him, you're kind of adding legitimacy to slightly unhinged science fiction rather than promoting the cause of science. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, you know, this is always a scuttlebutt, and, you know, people say. So I'm not very impressed with that. I would say that, you know, you have, I wouldn't say it's mildly unhinged. I would say it's wildly unhinged.
Right.
A lot of this stuff is just nonsense, right? On the other hand, I was very quick to spot something that I wouldn't have been able to appear with Terrence if I didn't think there was something in what he was doing. And because I have a lot of background and experience in this area, it was possible for me to go through what he said at a speed that I think very few people would be able to go through his work.
But what percentage,
so,
Eric, what percentage of what he was saying was true, or at least vaguely sensible, and what was completely...
Very little.
Right, so my question, if it was genuinely very little, him getting tens of millions of views for espousing complete nonsense in the main, and then someone with your pedigree and your knowledge of this subject matter going on and kind of going along with engaging him as a serious person in these things.
Well,
is that not in its own way diminishing science when you do that?
First of all, I wouldn't have had Terrence on the first time because it didn't do him a service to what he actually is doing that's interesting, to give him this amount of air. That was a good friend of mine's choice. So partially what you're seeing is a relationship between a comedian, Joe Rogan, and a mathematician, Eric Weinstein. Joe's a buddy of mine, and he matters to me. And he's the one who asked me to come on. It's, you know, some people tried to frame it as if I wanted to go on. I had no interest in going on, but if we were going to watch a mass delusion take shape, certainly I don't want any more mass delusions. And I also don't want the idea that once these ideas are out there, that science is afraid somehow to confront, you know, Terrence Howard's new theory of arithmetic. He doesn't have a new theory of arithmetic. And somebody needs to be the adult and say, this is not right. On the other hand, you have to appreciate that all it takes is one great idea to move the world, and a lot of BS is going to be forgiven. And if he has a great idea, I would suggest to you, it's likely his concept of a 6-rotor drone that he calls the linchpin, that's based on a mathematical error where he's fit 6 pentagons through the edges of a regular tetrahedron, giving him 6 degrees of freedom, which span what we would call the Lie algebra of the affine group, giving him the ability to rotate around a center and move to any point in 3-dimensional space. It's an incredibly cool idea. Now, I don't know that it's his. I believe that it's his, but I don't know that. I haven't done that work. I'm not a drone operator, so I don't realize, you know, what the state of the art is. But imagine that was the only thing that he did, and that he figured out that these things could fit together as per the Intel drone shows to form capsids in the shape of dodecahedrons, much the way we see viruses doing that with capsomeres and protein coats to protect the genetic material. That would be an incredible contribution of Terrence Howard. And the thing that really disgusts me is watching my colleagues make fun of Terrence as easily where he is right as where he is wrong. It doesn't require that. He's clearly a self-taught guy. He pronounces words like canonically, which indicates that he's teaching himself. And for all of this talk of the Neil deGrasse Tysons, where they say, I'm so pleased to see active minds engaging with the world of ideas, they're really not. And, you know, my feeling about this is pretending that Terrence Howard is a fool or an idiot is repugnant to me. I mean, if you just take what he said about tones in the periodic table, because of some good fortune in my life, I was able to go out to none other than one of the greatest musicians now living, Stanley Jordan, and say, Stanley, you know, let's share your work on playing the periodic table by using the ionization energies as frequency information, much the way Terrence was discussing. So my feeling is that a lot of my colleagues just don't have enough knowledge. And even though they're supposedly the academics sitting in professorial seats, they're not behaving like professors. They're not behaving like academicians. They're making fun of somebody because it allows them to work out their own personal insecurities, and that's not going to happen on my watch.
Wow, that was a lot. But I'm going to end the video, but let me know what you guys think, man. Eric Weinstein said a lot, man, and I hope that this clears up some of the Terrence Howard hate. And I hope that Terrence Howard continues to innovate. Appreciate Eric Weinstein coming on and you know, clearing up the air and actually, you know, saying good things about Terrence, even though, you know, the science community is giving him a lot of backlash for what he's been doing. But it is what it is. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. More content is on the way. Peace.